Okay. Hello. Um, Before we get into the films, I want to talk about something quickly. I worked on a series recently called Frequency Delirium, and the series has just come to a close. There's a playlist, and there'll be something on like the eye, whatever it is, for you to go check it out. Please watch it. I didn't direct it or anything like that, but like just please watch it and support it because small filmmakers need to get their work shown. Please and thank you. We all know the drill by now. Three genres, two films per genre. Let's do this. First one, classic cinema. I want to talk about films that are from like the golden age of cinema. So the first film is a film from the 40s called Double Indemnity. And now I should say, before I talk about both of these films, if you went to college with me, then I'm afraid you already know both of these films because we studied them together. Um, because they're classics, and they're classics for a reason. So Double Indemnity is probably the best noir film there is. So if you've been watching Jessica Jones recently, you'll notice there's a lot of noir conventions in that. And if you look back at Double Indemnity, it sort of uses every convention for noir possible and does it brilliantly. For those of you that don't know what noir is, it's the sort of like black and white jazz music, crime, murder mystery sort of film. Do you know what I mean? Like with the blinds and the lights and the harsh shadows. And it was made during the 1944, so obviously America didn't have a lot of money to flood into production to make it, so they did it with dark shadows to sort of cover up all the shit sets. Like, there's a lot of history to noir films. It's about a guy who falls in love with the femme fatale, who encourages him to murder her husband so that they can both get an insurance payout because of a double indemnity clause in their insurance, which he sells to them, which is weird. But it's proper good storytelling. It's nothing special. It's just a good noir classic film. The next film, however, it wasn't made in the 40s. It's actually a modern film. It was made quite recently by a just small indie director. I don't know if you've heard of them, called Guillermo del Toro. Uh, Definitely didn't win Best Director at the Oscars. Definitely not. And the film he made was a film called Pan's Labyrinth, which he made, I believe, in 2006, and looks at fascism and war and horror and all those sorts of elements within a fantasy film. So, following a young girl, it follows her ways of dealing with fascism and the guerrilla movement in Spain. That's guerrilla with a UE, not gorilla as in the monkey. It's probably the first time I was aware of who Doug Jones is. So Doug Jones is the body actor who's in a lot of Del Toro's films. So he played Abe in Hellboy. He also played the reptilian man in The Shape of Water, and in Pan's Labyrinth he played the Faun. So there's a really interesting element in the director's commentary track about the Faun, that as Ophelia, the main character, gets more as her world starts bleeding through. So as the fantasy and war start meeting, the Faun gets younger as he steals her youth and innocence. The reason why I put this in classic cinema is because you can look at this in so many different ways and dissect it and analyze it and write about it, as I did for college. But it's classic because of just what it means to the world of cinema, not necessarily because it was made donkeys ago. The next category we're talking about is one that's very close to my home. Very close to my home? Very close to my heart, even. And it's...
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Alexa. Thank you for that. So the next category we're talking about is one that's very close to my heart. And it's comedy, because I love laughing, and it's a very iconic laugh. I'm going to be talking about two different types of comedy. I'm going to be talking about awkward, dry comedy, where you're watching it and you feel like there isn't a joke, but there is, because it's, it's the way it's set up. And the second type of comedy is a much more stylistic, very quirky comedy. But we'll start with the awkward one, because that's the one that I'm going to have to explain a bit more and sort of get into a bit more detail for. And that film is David Brent's Life on the Road. Now, it's not based on The Office, and you don't need to have seen The Office to watch this. I have seen The Office, so I'm at an advantage, but I think you could watch this without having seen it, because you're not losing any information on who David Brent is, and anything that you need to know, it's sort of given to you within the first few minutes of the film anyway. What you do need to know, though, is that Ricky Gervais is known for doing very awkward comedy. But for Life on the Road, it takes the conventions of what Ricky Gervais does of being awkward, being dry, and just puts it in real life. It's obviously not, it's staged, but you get an idea of him. Well, basically, the whole point of The Office is that it's a mockumentary, so it's all staged. And then he then does this, which is a mocku-comedy, which is a comedy based in real life, but none of it's real. Or I just don't think it's real. I've never laughed as hard as I have watching Life on the Road, because within, like, I think there's a segment in it where it's just back to back to back comedy. Yeah, I would recommend watching Life on the Road, especially if you're British, because it's the sort of very British humour that we're used to. I think that if you were American or European watching this, you would get it, but I don't think you would get it as much, which sounds shitty, but it's just my hunch, because this film relies on the awkward moments that British humour is based in. The comedy that I think most people probably understand or get is a New Zealand film. It's a film set in New Zealand called Hunt for the Wilder People. It is a drama comedy about a boy who is given to a new family because he's bounced around different foster families, but is given one to settle into. And it's how he rebels and how they rebel against him, which is really funny. And he then decides to run away into the forest, which then creates a manhunt for him, because sure. But what makes Hunt for the Wilder People stand out is the fact that it's just so charming and quirky. Every scene that you get with the characters, it sort of adds, you're sort of there with them. Like, no matter what they do, you believe it. Ultimately, because you believe it, you are there on board with them no matter what they do, no matter what situation they get into, which makes the humour sort of land a lot more as well. Because if you were to watch this and not believe any of the characters, all of this over the top unnecessary comedy wouldn't really work, because you just don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, when you watch comedy and you're like, oh, actually it's not funny because I don't care about this situation. But as soon as you start caring, then that's when it starts being funny. It's a good one. It's a good film that people should watch more of, because New Zealand is known for The Hobbit, but they should be known for more things. Okay, this is the bit that I love doing. This is the bit where I get to take a suggestion from somebody and give them recommendation films, because it's the thing that I love doing the most. So today's recommendation is coming of age film. So I'm going to get a little bit excited in a minute because I get to talk about one of my favourite actors. His name is Freddie Highmore, and he is incredible. So Freddie Highmore, if you don't know, was Charlie Bucket in the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He was also in Finding Neverland, also with Johnny Depp. He was also in the Spiderwick Chronicles, which I also own on DVD. He was also in August Rush. And he was also in the film we're going to talk about today, which is called The Art of Getting By. And The Art of Getting By is so lovely. It's only an hour long. And it stars Freddie Highmore, Emma Roberts, and the boy who played the lead character in Sky High, who I can't remember the name of. And it is about a boy who is about to graduate from college, high school, whatever. And he doesn't give a shit. He's depressed. He has nothing to give a shit for. And then he meets Emma Roberts. And through that, it's how their relationship develops, how he learns to give a shit again, or at least pretends to sort of get through life. It's a film about love. It's a film about growing up. And it's fucking incredible. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking with what it's doing, but because it's only an hour long, you haven't got long to tell such a self-contained story that hits on so many different levels. But it does, and it does it with such charm that it deserves more recognition for what it's doing, because it's a really, really underappreciated film. So the final film today that we're talking about is phenomenal. It is so good. I'm actually filming this video on Mother's Day, and I've told my mum and my nan to both watch this film because, oh boy, it hits you in the feels. It'll make you cry, and it's so everything. Everybody that will look at this film will look at it in a different way, and will read into it a different way, and will take something from it that will affect them. And it's actual proper good cinema. And the film is Lady Bird by Greta Gerwig, and I'm so fucking proud of her for becoming the fifth woman to ever be nominated, because this film fucking owns it. I want to talk about Lady Bird more, because I've only seen it the once, but I want to see it twice and maybe even a third time, because everything about Lady Bird is incredible. It is filmed like series of moments, so it doesn't really string together as a form of consciousness, but it sort of flows as a memory. It flows like it's someone looking back at their life from their position, looking back and seeing how their life got to where they are. And because of that, it adds this whole nostalgic element into it, which obviously we as an audience are putting our own nostalgia on anyway. So it's got all these heavy layers of nostalgia and emotion, which then when you add in different elements that I'm sure many people watching will relate to, such as first relationships, or religion, or defiance, or economic poverty. There are so many parts of that film that when you watch them, you can relate to Lady Bird until we can identify our personality within that, which is the journey that she takes in the film, as well as many other journeys. She doesn't just do that one, but this film is about identity and family, and identifying yourself and identifying your place within family and your place in society. And I fucking love this film so much. It's one of those films that comes out, you hear about people talking, you're like, oh, it's fine, I'll catch that, and then it's out on DVD and you're like, oh, I'll buy that at some point. But seriously, if you have not seen Lady Bird yet, you need to. It is so good. Thank you for watching. As I say, I did a series called Frequency Delirium, which will be on the I button, wherever that'll be. And there'll be a link for that in the description. Please go check that out, because a lot of people, myself included, worked very hard to make that, and we're all very proud of it. I currently don't have a suggestion to recommend for I think it's next week or the week after. So if you have an idea of something that you want me to talk about, then let me know, because I like doing the bits where I recommend it to different people. Yeah.